The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
At that time Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman of that district came and called out, "Have pity on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not say a word in answer to her. Jesus' disciples came and asked him, "Send her away, for she keeps calling out after us." He said in reply, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But the woman came and did Jesus homage, saying, "Lord, help me." He said in reply, "It is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Please, Lord, for even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters." Then Jesus said to her in reply, "O woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And the woman's daughter was healed from that hour. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So this weekend is one of my least favorite weekends in the year. How did you know? The Woodward Dream Cruise is not a dream. My office is in Detroit at 6 Mile, Illinois, about a mile west of Woodward. And I live at 13 Mile in Coolidge, about half a mile east of Woodward. So normally, 51 weeks a year, I just drive up Woodward, drive down Woodward to go to work or to come home. But not this week. You know, you think the cruise is one day. Don't fool yourself. The west side is the west side, and the east side is the east side. And yesterday I was trying to come home. I left the office early, and I'm trying to figure out, and finally I was taking, it wasn't a side street, but it was kind of a secondary street. It wasn't a main street. And I got caught behind a 1960-something red Ford Fairlane that was going 12 miles an hour. And I think the driver was lost. Anyways, that's the west side, and this is the east side. And I'm a west sider. In fact, I remember, probably now it's not so strong as it was when I was growing up. The west siders were west siders, and the east siders were east siders. Like I said, I think because we're more mobile now, it's maybe not quite as strong. And finally my family moved out to the north, so they're not east or west anymore. But anyways, a lot of times we make these divisions. Sometimes they're not even real, the west siders and the east siders. Living in Chicago, it's the north siders and the south siders. And the south siders root for their south side baseball team, the Chicago White Sox. And the north siders root for the north side baseball team, the Chicago Cubs. And a south sider would never root for the Chicago Cubs. There's just a little bit of difference. In many things in our lives, we kind of make these little divisions. Maybe it makes it easier for us. You know, maybe we do it within our families, you know, the in-laws versus the outlaws, or whatever it may be, you know, or the people from my mother's side of the family versus the people from my father's side you know, and we don't necessarily have any bad intentions necessarily. In today's gospel, Jesus talks about the divisions that are made, and there's the Canaanite woman who is not a Jewish woman, and Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew comes to save the Jews. But she comes up to him and pleads for her daughter. This good mama just wants her daughter to be healed. And she knows that Jesus can do it. And at the beginning, Jesus just ignores her. And then the apostles say, "Come on, let us shoo her away." And she continues. She was persistent. She didn't give up. Because Jesus, she knew, could do it. And of course he did. And it's a very short gospel today. It's a short miracle story, if you will. But it teaches us the difference between the circles we make and the insiders and the outsiders. And sometimes it's very difficult in those circles that we've made for an outsider to enter in. Even within a parish community sometimes. Everybody might, maybe not everybody, but everybody knows one another to a certain extent. And it may be difficult for an outsider, a non-member of this parish, to feel comfortable here. And I've heard that said not only here, but in many other parishes as well. Well, I've gone to Mass there, but I don't feel welcome. Sure, you have people at the door welcoming you, you have whatever, but it's still a problem in any part of our society. We make these circles, and it's great for the people inside the circle, but for the people who try to enter, it's not. Living in Japan, and I know I've told you this before, but it's worth saying again. The Japanese are a homogeneous nation, so they're all Japanese, unlike the United States where we're from many different nationalities and whatever. So they have a word for a foreign person, a foreign-born person. It's gai, which means outside, koku, which means country, jin, which means person. A person from an outside country, gai koku-jin. But they usually shorten it, and they take the koku part, the nation, the country part out, and you become a gai-jin, an outsider, an outside person, which is not a positive thing at all. And I can't tell you how many, of course I'm twice the size of the Japanese, but how many times, if I were able to find a seat on a train coming home from school, the seat next to me would probably be empty. Because people wouldn't want to sit next to this strange and big outsider, foreigner. We have these in our lives, and Jesus is telling us in today's gospel, it doesn't make a difference what nation, what religion, what color, what race, what sexuality this person may be. God's love is for all of us. All of us are accepted. At the beginning of Mass, we sing, all are welcome. And we have to make sure in our lives that we live by that as well. Everybody needs to be welcome. And sometimes it's hard for you or hard for us to get along with somebody who's different. We don't always like people that are different than we are. We kind of like to hang around with people that are more or less like us. You know, if you're Polish, man, you've got an in with me, you know. That's not what Jesus is teaching us. Look at the Canaanite woman that was very persistent. She didn't give up. And even though Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew is there to save just the Jewish people, he didn't give it up. He gave in to accept this Canaanite woman because of her faith. And that's what it's all about. It's about our faith. It's about allowing others to enter into our lives, to be like us because we're all loved by God.